Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. You lucky Phonogenics fans get 2 episodes 2 days in a row. Yesterday, we talked about Janet Jackson's Damita Jo album and started a new hashtag, Justice for Damita Jo, because it's honestly a masterpiece. I'm going to say it. Will the Hunter by the Blondie, Will the Hunter by Blondie, which we are discussing tonight, have the same fate? We will find out in this podcast. Well, this is episode 108. Thank you to all the new subscribers since yesterday. The podcast has grown. And, y'all are welcome. All the viewers are welcome to let the Patreon grow, too, if you feel so inclined. I was telling on the podcast yesterday with Jimmy, I said, my dream is to not have to work, and I'll do a podcast every night. We can just talk about music, but, we can all dream. The nonprofit world would just miss me so much. Well, we have our tried and true Blondie panel here tonight, so no need for new introductions. However, what we are introducing is the album, The Hunter. Is this the 7th Blondie album?
6.
Six
studio, I think.
Okay. I guess when I was a kid, I counted Best of Blondie because, but it is their 6th studio album. I think people that watch this podcast probably know the history of Blondie, but just for a little quick overview, and of course, anybody add to this. The band was fragmenting as they recorded this album. Of course, Auto American was a huge hit. And then they came out with a very popular best of compilation. And I have so many friends, like through high school and stuff, like everybody had the Best of Blondie. That was one of those greatest hits album, kind of like the Eagles' greatest hits. Madonna Immaculate Collection, like Best of Blondie, I feel is something that's in almost any music lover's collection. But I almost feel like sometimes when someone comes out with the greatest hits, it does kind of cap off a part of her career, and what they do next can be a hit or a miss. So,
especially if they say greatest hits part 1,
right?
If an artist does that, their career is done,
or
they're not going to have a part 2.
Who did greatest hits so far? Somebody did that. I can't remember who it was.
That was Sinead O'Connor, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was so far the best of Sinead O'Connor, I think.
Well, that only got so far. Rest in peace, Sinead.
I'll tell you, Mike Chapman was a genius when they released the Best of Blondie, with making sure that the fans would buy that, because there are very specific mixes of some of the songs just on the Best of Blondie.
Yeah, the best Rapture remix is
Rapture
on
that. has that third sung verse in it. Heart of Glass is a different mix. Yep. Sunday Girl is a blend of the English and the French version.
You had Call Me, which was only on a soundtrack.
Yeah, and then I think In the Flesh is noted as being mixed, but I'm not sure that they did that. I never heard the difference, but.
And for all those Blondie fans out there, the last episode of the Blondie series will be the compilations and box sets and stuff. So we will be digging into that in the future. But I loved the Best of Blondie. And, that was the first Christmas present I got. The first record I got was Best of Blondie. And on the back cover, it intrigued me so much because it said what album each song was from. So as a 6-year-old, I had to collect them all. In the Flesh was from Blondie. I had to get Blondie. I had to get Parallel Lines. So by the time I was 7 years old, which is when The Hunter came out, I owned the entire Blondie discography. I didn't really play with toys. I played with Debbie Harry's words and music. So I remember going into, I think the store was Kmart in my hometown, and this was there.
Yep.
The Island of Lost Souls 45, and thus began the new era of Blondie. And I remember as a 7-year-old, when you're 7, you don't really know about like what's a hit and what's a miss and what's working and what's not too much. But I remember kind of seeing this and be like, oh, that's a little different than than we've done before. So I went home and enjoyed my first new Blondie music of my lifetime. And now we're here talking about it. How many years later? 41.
Yeah, at least 40.
41.
41, yeah, it was released in 82.
41 years since the 100. So we have some fans here that were fans of Blondie from the first album that kind of experienced this album coming out in real time. So do y'all want to go around the panel and kind of talk about what the Hunter, how it arrived into your life and how you felt about it?
Yeah, sure. I'll start.
Okay.
I mean, I would say this was the first Blondie album that I actually waited for. I remember waiting to, and I was so excited when I heard that a new Blondie album was coming out. So, like I knew Blondie. I was a fan. And then I remember I bought Auto American because of The Tide is High at the time. So The Tide is High had already been out and it had already kind of been established. Auto American had already been established. So I remember just waiting, and I remember hearing that, oh, it's coming out in May, or sometime around that. Like back then, you never got a definite date, and I remember that because of this album, I realized that records were released on Tuesdays, and this record made me realize that LPs were released on Tuesdays. So I remember every Tuesday in May, I was going to the store to see this, and I remember just being taken back by the cover of it, and just being like, whoa, and I can remember people talking about it in school and stuff, and like they're saying like, oh, she's crazy, she's out of her mind. Did you see her hair? She's out of her mind, and it was very funny. I think people at the time were already writing it off before even the music came out. It almost seemed very funny. I almost felt like I was kind of, fighting the good fight for my, my favorite little ragamuffins. And it's true. And I just remember, just kind of, waiting and the image of it and just and listening to it and just being kind of blown away by it, but also by the seriousness of the album. But it was like, for me, it was a very exciting time. And but also discovering that the music itself was kind of dark, and it became a kind of dark time for my love of the band and everything, and just so but I mean, basically that's what I had to say about it. I was actually noticing that in retrospect, looking at like the timeline, Blondie and the band members of Blondie were producing a lot of stuff really quickly at that time. And I went through the dates, and I was like November 1980, Auto American was released. By December 1980, Call Me was, made the '1 song of the year. Cuckoo was released in July of 81, so it's 7 months later. 3 months after that, The Best of Blondie came out. And then in May of 82, The Hunter was out. So we were kind of getting bombarded with it. And it's kind of funny. At that time, we never really gave artists time to kind of like sit back and reflect and kind of, recharge and stuff. And I think that kind of shows in the music and the a little bit of the paranoia that kind of comes across on this album. Whether that's good or bad, remains to be talked about. But it's one of the things that I like about the album. But that was my experience with the Hunter.
Well, unlike Mark, I was totally oblivious to releases and anticipating, albums coming out. That really didn't hit until, probably until I was in my mid-teens. Mm-hmm. But I do remember the day going into the store. It was in the mall where I lived. It was called Record Bar, and seeing, that cover, that 12-inch by 12-inch cover of what's on, Mark's shirt there, and just absolutely flipping out in the record store, thinking, my God, there's another Blondie album. Yes, I gotta get it. Gotta get it. And I got it. It's funny because and I'm sure we'll get to this about Mark had mentioned something about how maybe people were like saying, oh, Debbie's crazy, look at her in this. But I mean, think when Cuckoo came out of the backlash with the needles in the face picture, and they hadn't toured in a few years. They did not. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they toured Auto American. I think the last time they toured was the Parallel Lines album, but I'm not positive. So here we have a band that's released 2 albums and a greatest hits, and there's not been any tour to support that stuff. And then all of a sudden they're touring The Hunter. Here in America, it was called Blondie Making Tracks Across America. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so that may have had to do a little bit with kind of the darkness and the underdogness of this particular album, in addition to the band kind of severing at the same time and stuff like that. But yeah, loved it. I mean, when it first came out, it was, I mean, it totally rocked my world that day when I saw that this new Blondie album was out.
And wasn't there an HBO special of the concert? I remember watching it on HBO. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Yeah, I was 17 when it came out, and like I was, keen to the Tuesday. Like I just went to the record store every Tuesday to see what would come in. So that was like a regular thing for me at that time. Of course, being a senior in high school, I'm kind of consumed with all that hijinks that goes on when you're a senior and all that kind of stuff. But definitely I bought it on release day and thing. But as I was saying earlier, by 1982, I was kind of exploring a lot of more alternative bands that were coming up. If you look at the albums that were released in 1982, I mean, we've got Depeche Mode and, lots of new things were just springing out everywhere. So it was an exciting time in music. But one thing I just want to touch on with Debbie about how really ahead of the curve she was, because even in the Cuckoo era, she was wearing like colored wigs a lot, and to match her dresses. And there was that calendar for 1982, that has all those color wigs and things like that. And then of course this album, The Hunter, has this crazy wig on it, which now, it's not uncommon for us to see pop stars wearing different hair and stuff like that. But I don't think that people were really doing that much back, in 1982. So I think Debbie was kind of like looked at kind of like, what's going on with that? But again, definitely bought it the day it came out, and we're gonna go track by track. So I'm gonna kind of save my comments for that process.
Barry, did you want to add anything?
Sure, why not? I remember when I got this, I also got it at Kmart like you, and I'm the same age as Jimmy. So I was also 17, just about to graduate high school, and I got it on 8-track tape. And I still have my 8-track tape. I have the best of Parallel Lines and The Hunter and Auto American on 8-track tapes.
That's great. I think I have E to the Beat on 8-track somewhere down there in the basement.
Cool. Well, I remember being in the music store, and just didn't they change release days to Fridays more recently? It's not Tuesday anymore, right? Yeah, I think they changed it to Friday because of the global. It's more of a global world. So things were coming out in the US on Tuesday and not internationally until Friday, and it was causing everything to leak. Oh. I think that's why everything's on Friday. I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm 80% sure that I'm right. All right. I remember being a kid in Kmart and flipping over the cover, and all the bones, which is Jim's background there. They had the bones surrounding the album cover. So I'm like, this is interesting. There's my little CD, and I have the 2 different editions of the CD, the original one, then the remaster with the bonus track. Before we go into the songs, we gotta talk about this cover. And how about this font here, The Hunter? What is it, like little bones and stuff? How do you guys feel about this album cover? Debbie's got a big lion wig on. The guys look like the catering staff of a restaurant.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the contrast between the sharpness of Blondie, all in capital letters and spaced out, and this the hunter, and all these bones, and it's definitely a separation from the Auto American album, which I think is a very classy album cover with the painting, and even the Eat to the Beat album cover with all the pre-80s look on it, and the Blondie written in the fire, and things like that. I just to me, the hunter being written as it is, to me is indicative of Blondie, that it's different, and it's everything. It's going to be different every time you get a new album. It's going to be different to a degree. So
what I love about the album cover the most, though, is like if you just isolate and look at Debbie's face, it's like a vision of perfection with a blankness to her eyes that is just remarkable. I guess it's a Brian Ayres photo or something, and he was just able to photograph her. He did the cuckoo photograph as well, and this is kind of like that in that perfection of a face, and but with just kind of like a blankness of no emotion. Like you can't tell what emotional state she's in at all. It's just she's looking like beautiful perfection, but a blank slate, behind those beautiful eyes.
I mean, I love the album cover for its ridiculousness. I mean, I love ridiculous things. I love bad movies. I mean, I throw a party called Bad Movie Brunch where we watch our favorite bad movies. So I mean, I love like ridiculous things, and that's how I feel about this album cover. I think she's beautiful, and I just, but I think it's funny. I think the guys kind of look kind of like distracted or very distant from the whole thing, or not quite part of it, and I think it was very funny. Like people are like I said earlier, everyone was just like, "Oh my God, she's crazy," and it was coming after Cuckoo with the pins in her face, and then this with this ridiculous hair, and it's called a kabuki wig, by the way, because it's a hard shell. That's the only way you can get the hair to hold up. Yeah, but I love it. I think it's kind of indicative of the album that comes after it. I think they had the right elements. I think they had the right idea, but it was, just kind of needed to be thought out a little bit more. What was it? John Holstrom did the lettering for it, from Punk Magazine, so I mean, and yet it still looks very cartoonish, but that's what he did. But like I said, I logically, I say it's ridiculous, and I adore it.
It made for a really great promotional stand-up item.
Oh yeah, I love that. I mean, I did.
The when you're talking about the guys there, I mean, again, they were fractured horribly at this time, and I'm wondering, are they even all together in this picture?
That's what I was thinking.
Kind of Photoshop.
Right.
The time where each picture was taken. Okay, Jimmy, you need to pose like this to make it look like you're sitting, up towards Debbie's left shoulder, and who knows? I mean, to me, that would make sense, considering I don't even think they were talking to Frank at the time. He didn't do the tour, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think there was even an interview with Frank, and he had said the first time he saw them was when they went to do the Island of Lost Souls video. So, I mean, I imagine that the photography had already been done by then.
Yeah.
Some time ago, we had been talking about Frank not being on the tour. I was at that tour in August on the 16th is the show that I saw. And I finally remembered the name of the guitarist who filled in. It was Eddie Martinez.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And actually, he's credited. I watched the HBO thing, and he's credited on the HBO thing as the guitarist. I can't remember if Frank's name scrolled by there or not. I don't think it did because he wasn't in the programming. So,
well, the beauty of Phonogenics 101 is there's no right or wrong opinion, and I'm just going to ask you guys to stick with me because there's some Blondie albums later that I love that I'd rate very highly. So. My thought on the cover is it looks like Debbie came out of the Halloween store. They pulled the caterers out of the kitchen. Then they went to the school photo booth and did the school pictures in front of the blue background. And
You're bad.
I've never seen a group of people so unhappy to see each other as in this picture. So
Right.
I just remember being a kid buying, because I was a huge Blondie fan, and by 82, that's when Pat Benatar Get Nervous was out. Fleetwood Mac had a huge hit with Mirage. What else was out in 82? And I just remember that when I bought this album, like, my friends didn't think it was cool. Like, Blondie, to my elementary school friends and their brothers and sisters, Blondie wasn't the cool band anymore. And that's the first time I experienced something like that.
Well, you had people like, I think Duran Duran, Culture Club, Eurythmics.
Yeah, the
They were
Eurythmics.
all, on the cusp of just exploding over here, and
Yep. Thompson
and,
Twins.
Yep. And I remember I loved the Thompson Twins before they, were popular over here. But, you have these videos, like of Sweet Dreams, and they're on a boat with a cow, and, that drove people bonkers, and so there definitely was a draw in a different direction. But as we go through track by track, I have some comparisons to some of those songs that were becoming popular at that time. I've got a lot of opinions on this, and I will have to say that I am going to change my thoughts from the last session, where I only gave Auto American a 9.5 and said, "Oh, the Hunter's much better." After listening to it a few more times and having listened to Auto American as much as I did, I got to flip flop it. Auto America or Auto American is a 10.
You guys made me fall in love with that album because I listened to it in my car, and there were just things about it I didn't understand. Because I thought
if I didn't resequence it at all, if I didn't touch it, it's a masterpiece. I mean,
but it never occurred to me how intentional it was to kind of strip back some of the arrangements for Clem to be a little bit more streamlined on Auto American, and thinking that everything was intentional. It was such a great transition into the 80s and just great music. I kind of took what everyone said to heart and listened to the album the next weeks after that and just fell in love with it. So
look, we changed somebody's mind.
Yeah, we changed your mind. Little preview. I don't know if it's gonna happen with the Hunter, but we'll see. All right. But this album is classically divisive among fans, right? Yes. I think that's the beauty of this podcast. Well, let's get into the track by track. Our friend Daniel should be here soon in a timely way. I remember putting this on my little Fisher-Price record player. The first song is Orchid Club. My stepfather, Big Donnie, rest in peace, used to take me fishing on the street in Madison Street. And I remember the sun was setting, it was dusky, and this hearse went by, and it was right when this album came out. And I just had the Orchid Club in my... So that's always the visual, because this is such a dark song, and I just have that dusky Western New York, a hearse driving. It was just, I can almost feel like I'm there. But, for the first new Blondie music of my lifetime, I loved this song from the first time I heard it. I still love this song. I think this is probably one of my favorite Blondie songs of all time. They're kind of getting more into the synthesizer thing, which, we're going into the 80s. It's a tribal song. Debbie's mesmerizing. I could talk for hours about how much I love this song. And for a lot of songs on this album, like when I go to an open mic poetry, like I feel like I'm kind of stupid. I never know what the hell people are talking about. I feel like a lot of the songs on this album, like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm sure if I sat there and deciphered the lyrics, I could figure it out. Yeah. But or maybe you guys can say what all the songs are about. But I always love this song just for the vibe. Like, it just puts me in a time and a space that's kind of like a dark magic almost.
I think it's a continuation of Blondie being genius in an opening track. I think this is a great track to open this album with. We'll, of course, discuss the rest of the tracks after this one, but I think this is a great opening track. It obviously fits in with the theming of the album cover, with this jungle sound. It's so atmospheric, and Debbie's vocals are just, perfection in it. And then, at the end, I just love her chanting, and then the yell is just, because when you listen to it, it's like goes on. She's like Debbie, come on. You're going on and on and on. It's kind of really impressive. But I just think it's a great opening track for an album. And they've had a string of this going on now for a while.
And
I think the album. I'm sorry.
I was just to say really quick, it might even be one of my favorites, if not my favorite Blondie opening track. And that's all I was gonna say.
I love the fact that it continues kind of in the auto-American theme. I find it very cinematic. It's densely dark and it's tribal, but it's also electronic. So it's definitely modern. But the lyrics are so poetic and they're so magnetic, and it immediately sets up this theme, I guess, that they had of that time of being the hunted, and just kind of when you're at this point or this stage in your life or the stage of your fame, and people are at you all the time, and it just really kind of evoked that whole thing. And even in the way that the song starts, with you hear the chant slowly in the background, and then the synths come up, and then Clem's drums, and you can immediately picture yourself going down like a river, and heading towards, some kind of tribe or something. I imagine that scene in King Kong, and when people are going on, and to that point, the wail that she gives at the end, which just seems very, very primitive and very, very, very tribal. I thought it was very funny. It also kind of came at that time. I remember that time in the 80s, there was a big show-offy kind of thing where people would just try to hold a note for as long as they could.
Right.
I've never known Debbie to be somebody like that would just sit there and hold a note. And I love that she kind of did that in her own way, which was just a very primitive and very, raw kind of expression. I love the fact when the song breaks down, there is no guitar solo, but just drums.
Yeah.
The guys chanting, and that's there's no guitar solo or anything. I mean, how many pop songs do you hear that are like that? So it immediately evokes that kind of feeling of tension, and you're getting, like I said earlier, you're getting a very different Blondie. These guys are a little world weary, and which I don't mind. And they have a point of view that they're going to come across, and I do love like the world music sound of it, which was very contemporary at that time. It was coming up all over. Susie Sue and Adam Ant and Bow Wow Wow were all very popular right there, and they all relied on that heavy drum. So I think this was a perfect opener to the album, and one of Debbie and Nigel's best compositions, ever. I think the combination of this opener and the opener on side 2, had they continued with a whole album of songs like this, I think it would have been a masterpiece. Was this around the time Tom Tom Club was out?
They were
82, 81, 82, yeah.
Genius of Love, Wordy Rapping Hood. Culture Club was also very drum heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, Boy George actually was a member of Tom Tom Club at one point.
Right.
So that's probably where that drum.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Bow wow wow. And thank you. And that's probably where the Culture Club, grabbed that whole drum heavy sound at, on their first album.
Wasn't Bananarama's first album 82?
Was that Robert De Niro's Waiting and Cruel Summer?
No, they had an album before that.
Before that.
Oh, okay.
He was really saying something, and
yep.
Oh, yes.
Na 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 na, kissing.
And they did songs with what was it? Fun Boy 3.
Fun Boy 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had some drums.
Yeah.
They had some drum stuff on that album too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, in this track, I agree with everybody that has spoken already. That yes, an opener, top notch opener. My favorite element of it is the drum production on it. I mean, could you imagine how many layers did Clem have to perform to get that sound? I mean, we're not talking about just on his regular set that he plays on. He had to play on some different other types of instruments, I'm sure, unless Mike Chapman threw him in, which don't tell me if he did, because that'll totally break my heart about Clem, but because Clem could have done all that. but yeah, the production of the drums alone. And then when it breaks down, where Mark was talking about, it breaks down, we don't hear a guitar solo, we hear the drums, we hear the pounding, was the line in here, something pounding to the rhythm, heart is pumping to the rhythm. I mean, that's you get that in those drums. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, it is. And then when the kind of, I guess it's kind of a steel drum sound that comes in, and it's nothing but like two notes that are just kind of played intermittently. Dee, 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 dee. I mean, you barely hear it, but it's like the perfect kind of transition to that next verse that's coming up, and then. Again, the wail, yes, I need to time that wail. I have no idea how long she held that. And then to be able to go into that raspy, loud, grunt growl at the end of it, where did she get the breath to do that? And again, another perfect lead in to the next part of the song. I mean, it's, yes, production wise is a great song, writing wise is a great song. Performance wise, this is a great song. They did this on a recent tour, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Was it the No Principles tour? Maybe I can't remember exactly.
And didn't she rewrite some of the lyrics? I think she changed some of the lyrics.
Yeah, I think so. But they did this on a recent tour. They opened with this, and they also did War Child on a recent tour too. So, which is interesting. They haven't played stuff from this album in forever.
I feel like Debbie's Long Notes. What was the No More Tears, Enough is Enough? Where didn't Donna Summer pass out in the vocal booth holding that note? Barbara's try. I can't remember which one, but it was
Barbara
interesting.
held the note, yeah.
When Blondie did Ghost the Download with all the synthesizer stuff, there were a couple times on that album I'm like, okay, this is reminiscent of Orchid Club. There's some synths on that album that I thought were a throwback to this song.
And I don't think that this could have ever been a single, but this definitely was indicative of them trying to find that next big thing, which was, on the heels of this album, basically. The more synth heavy sound, the more rhythm driven type of song, and the lyrics themselves are just so I read the lyrics, I'm lost and helpless, because it's like you're constantly searching for whatever it is you're searching. And then one of the last lines is, the story is repeated, and then she goes into another wail there. And it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, I got to do this all over again. I'm still looking. I've got to do it all over again. It's got a very kind of helpless vibe to it. So.
Dina's in an alternate universe. I kind of love when artists are daring and release kind of an artsy, weird first single that they know isn't going to be a hit. The first thing that comes to mind is like Russian Roulette from Rihanna, but I know there's got to be a better example. But I think it'd been cool if they led this era with this song, not worried if it was going to be a huge chart hit, and then maybe the second single was something more radio friendly. Because I don't think this song. I think it would have caught someone's attention somewhere. I mean, it's just too good not to.
Even in a club, if anything. I mean,
I could hear this played at goth clubs almost. Like this would sit right alongside some of that Susie.
Would.
Yeah.
I need to get my friend Sharon from the Janet podcast. She's our goth. Well, does anyone else want to talk about Orchid Club?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Barry.
I love that song. It's my favorite song off the album and one of my favorites. And I remember the tour where they performed it live was the Endangered Species Tour. I think it was 2010.
Okay.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting story there is that, back then I was going through a hard time and I listened to a lot of music all the time. And I was always in the dark in my kitchen using the computer, programming or, doing programming work or whatever I was doing at the time. And one of the things that I did and enjoyed back then was I handled all the incoming mail to blondie.net. So I would receive these messages, and most of them were for Chris. Some of them were asking general questions or trying to do bookings and stuff, and I would send it to management or answer the questions. But when the mail came in for Chris, I would forward it all to his private address, and he would generally respond to it. And I remember getting an email one night. It was about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And a good friend and a big Blondie collector and fan, Daniel Morikow, had written in and I had known him for many years, not met him yet at that point. And he suggested Orchid Club as the opening track for that tour, because Chris had actually put out there to ask for recommendations for what to play. And I thought about that for a few seconds, and I'm like, oh my, what a great suggestion. So I turned the lights off and I played that real loud and imagined that I was at a show and they were opening with that, and I was just completely blown away. And I'm like, that is like the best suggestion that was ever written into Blondie.net. And of course, I passed it along to Chris and I said, I completely agree. You really ought to do this. And even though they didn't open with it, they did such a fantastic job in that transition that they did at the end into Atomic. Was just extraordinary. It's one of the best transitions. And they later on, years and years later, when they did Lights and they ran that into Atomic, that was a good competitor to that. That was one of their best covers, I think. That was Guy Farrow's suggestion, but I digress. But Orchid Club's a great song. I've always loved it, and it's a gem for me on the album.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it was even on the album, actually. They should have just left it off and just eliminated it altogether. It would have been so much better. So I think we should just not even talk about that one anymore at all and just move to the next song, because the previous stuff was just junk.
You better watch, you're going to get canceled.
Daniel, we're punking you. We know you love Orchid Club, so we're just gonna pretend we all hated it.
Yeah, I was saying that I wanted to say that
was happening.
Yes, I was saying that I wanted to just trash it, and this
we
just signed on to say it was just a trashy song, and we shouldn't even talk about it.
It's literally one of my.
I know you love it so much, so
literally one of my. I was like, I am so sorry, I'm late. I actually had this thing, and then I got this. I don't know. I've been trying to get music for TV and film lately, and so they wanted the baseball thing where they're going like da 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 da. So I actually had to record that and get it to a film supervisor, like literally, like I just sent it off right now. So I don't know. It's just I've been like recording all this stuff. Anyways, it's lovely to see everybody here.
Well, Daniel, your timing is actually perfect, because Barry had just talked about Orchid Club and we had all kind of gone around the circle. And if you hadn't shown up, we would have gone to the next song. But because you're here,
are we just at Orchid Club right now?
So your timing is perfect.
Started the album.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, Orchid Club is amazing. It's theatrical. It's like I was coming out of the closet as a little gay boy, and I was thinking like, ooh, vanilla, the boys herb. What does that mean? And so like I think it's a sexy song. I think it's really like. I think it's just an absolutely gorgeous song.
I always have a joke with my friends when there's one song like I really, really love on an album. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but instead of the album being The Hunter, I'd call it the Orchid Club CD single with 9 bonus tracks.
But you know what? I've been spending a lot of time with that album over the last couple of weeks. Like I've been listening to it when I go to the gym and everything. And I hadn't listened to it in a while. I mean, I've listened to specific tracks off it. Like I actually listened to Orchid Club quite a bit, and also the next song we're about to talk about, Island of Lost Souls, which I actually love. A lot of people. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that song yet. But but then there's a lot of songs I haven't listened to in a long time. Like I haven't listened to like Little Caesar in probably can't remember the last time. So I actually listened to that a couple times. And so I have a lot to say when we get to that album.
I think we all do.
Yeah. Just so you know, Daniel, everybody I think agreed that Orchid Club was a great way to open this album.
Yes.
Yeah. Great song.
We all loved it.
Do we dare do the thumbs up and down for this album, or are we gonna all hate each other by the end?
No, we need to do it. No,
Orchid Club.
Now we're not through it.
Yeah, we need to get through it first.
No, Orchid Club, the song.
Yeah, just the song.
Yeah, the song.
It's one of my favorite songs by that.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on Orchid Club before we move on to track 2? Now, I was thinking something bitchy when I was driving in my car. Jimmy's always worried that he's like, was I too bitchy? Like, I feel like I'm actually bitchier. But I was like, Island of Lost Soul. Island of Lost Souls is kind of like that average looking friend. Like, depending on what it's surrounded with, it can be either awesome or not that great.
I love that song.
And I like, I don't know how, but I do love it. Like, it was the first single. I remember the video where they're all rowing in the boat with that weird mask on. It's an interesting lead single. How do you guys feel about this song? Island of Lost Souls.
I'm going to pull a Jimmy here, and I think that is a horrible position for that song on that album. And I would even take it a step further that if that song was left off for maybe something else that was already left off, it probably wouldn't be missed. I agree with you. It's like that friend of yours that maybe we'll go out to the movies, maybe we won't. Who knows? I mean, it's same.
Like, if everyone in the group is hot, then the friend is hot. If everyone's kind of like, ugh, then like they're just kind of in the middle. Like, you don't know how to feel about it.
But I mean, I like the vibe of it. I like the break in the middle of it where they're, going with the horns and all that kind of stuff. But Debbie's vocals are just, please don't hate me, kind of piercing in this song for me. I mean, just the first line, in Babylon, it's kind of like, oh, there's Debbie right there in your face on this song that's, kind of an island vibe. And, you're trying to get into the groove of the song. And then, oh, there's Debbie. So I just really this has never been one of my favorite songs, period, from Blondie. So I'm sure I'm going to get contradicted, which is awesome, because maybe you'll change my mind.
There's no right or wrong on Phonogenics 101. All right.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh,
I love this song.
Oh, well.
I'm joking. I understand what you're saying, though. I always felt this song was kind of unfairly treated because it immediately got compared to The Tide Is High, and I feel like the two of them don't even compare. It's like comparing two of Diana Ross's songs because they're both R&B, and the fact that these both have an island feel or something. I feel like they don't really sound much alike at all in my ears. I don't necessarily know if it was the best choice for the first single, because I think Blondie was already kind of associated with, like, the calypso-y reggae kind of feel of Tide Is High. And I think that people kind of felt like they were resting on their laurels or something with this song. But in a lot of ways, I feel like it's almost a happier song than Tide Is High. And I love I kind of love the airiness of Debbie's vocal, whereas I love Debbie's Tide Is High vocal, but the Tide Is High was very kind of
a little flat,
and held back, and I felt like her background vocals are what made that vocal shine. And in this one, I feel like, in a way, Jim, you're right. It is up front and it is in your face. I kind of like that. I kind of think that's the great thing about it. But I find the thing that is funny about it is, like, it sounds like a happier version or a happier take on a Caribbean song, and yet the lyrics are kind of a downer and they're kind of sad, and like a lot of this album, and once again we're getting back to the Hunted thing, and there's a lot of talk of starting over. No luxuries, no perimeter too dull. Like we're kind of like, let's strip things down. Let's get back to a more simpler time and everything. But I do find it kind of cheerful. It actually even reminds me of a song, I guess it was around the same time. It reminds me more of like Eurythmics, Right by Your Side.
Oh, it does.
Close to The Tide Is High.
Yeah, that's a great song.
It's a great song. It's a great song. So I'm very fond of this song. I'm very fond of this song.
I think everyone knows that we've gotten pretty close to solidifying that the Eurythmics are going to be season 3 of Phonogenics. So
yes.
All right, Island of Lost Souls. Who's next? Who's next to go to Babylon and the Boulevard of Broken Dreams?
I love this song too. This is one of my favorite Blondie songs, actually. And I don't know if it's because, a lot of it has to do with like where somebody's life is when they hear a song. And I know for me, for some reason, this album came out when I kind of started realizing, like, I was dating a girl in junior high, but I was like really like looking at her older brother. So it's kind of like that type of thing where I was like kind of freaking out and being like, oh my God, am I like one of those gay people that the news talks about? Like, and that was really freaking me out. And all of a sudden, like, I like both those songs, weirdly enough, like, so there was Berlin's like Pleasure Victim, and then there was The Hunter, and both of those albums I kind of like associate with me coming out of the closet, like, or like realizing that was something. And like, for some reason, the Orchid Club, and specifically Island of Lost Souls, I think maybe just that whole thing of like, I kind of like had this fantasy of like being on an island and like, hey Buccaneer, will you help me put my fucking guilt? Like I was like probably 12 or something, but I was like already fantasizing about like dating this guy on an island, and he was gonna fix my truck, you know.
Daniel, would your remix have been called Fire Island of Lost Souls?
Fire Island of Lost Souls, yeah.
Oh, I just cracked myself up. All right. I never skip this song. Like, it's not in my top 10 favorite Blondie songs, but I never would skip it. It's just, to me, it's just kind of there. Like,
and I agree that it's actually a really happy song to me. To me, it's like it's always gets me in a good mood. So.
Well, I guess when you're thinking of a buccaneer on an island, what other kind of mood could you be in?
Sign me up for that.
The musicality behind it is definitely very peppy and upbeat and happy, and so I totally get that whole happy element you're feeling.
And we have another breakdown with some more chants in it, so that seems to be 2 songs in a row, no guitar solo. You guys know I have a crush on 70s and 80s Jimmy Destry, and when he was playing that trumpet in the video, I kept trying to pause the little spots in the video. All right. Any other thoughts on Island of Lost Souls?
Yeah, I will. For me, kind of, it was the Tide is Hot Part 2. I thought it, although they're 2 different songs and their vocal treatment is exactly opposite of each other, really. But to me, it was just, I asked myself, is it too much of a retread of we're just going to do a tropical sounding song, and so that's just my question. The thing I do like about it is a very light and breezy song, so it does evoke like good summertime vibes. So it's one of those that's like, it's not a song I dislike, but I just question, was it a good choice, following the huge hit they had with The Tide is Hot, to kind of revisit this islandy territory again.
I personally don't think they should have released that as a single, or at least not as the first single.
I don't know how to say this, but Tide is High just felt a little more natural to me, and Island of the Lost Souls feels a little bit more of a genre exercise.
Almost like this worked the first time, let's do it again, see what happens.
Right. Yeah. That's my question. Is it a retread too much?
And not the worst retread I've ever heard, for sure.
No.
All right. Well, any other thoughts? Island of the Lost Souls? I'm still going to give it thumbs up.
Barry, we haven't heard from you.
Yeah, Barry, do you have any thoughts on the island?
Not
Fire
really
Island?
Many thoughts. I like it. It's not my absolute favorite, but it's one I don't skip either.
Right.
I don't know. I agree with the comments about that it probably wasn't the best choice for the first single.
All right. Well, track 3, I remember having this album and visiting my Aunt Carol in Coxsackie, New York, and she read the lyrics and said, I don't know what the hell they're talking about in this. Look at these lyrics. So that's my memory of Dragonfly. Aunt Carol, rest in peace. You just did not get it. And I also bought Vanity's Wild Animal album a couple years later. And there's a song, Strap On Robbie Baby. She's like, look at these lyrics with Strap On. So Aunt Carol always has something to say. But the first song Aunt Carol ever commented on was Dragonfly by Blondie. This is another song for me, like Island of the Lost Souls. I never skip it, but it's not a song that I necessarily love. I know we're kind of getting to the science fiction thing here, and I'm gonna have someone else take this one away because I just don't have much to say.
It's an odd song to kind of even talk about. I don't necessarily know. I mean, it's a space romp or something.
Right.
6-minute space romp, you know, and what more can you say about it? And that's what it is. I mean, I do kind of like the groove. I hear elements of Atomic in it. So kind of like in the bass line or in some like parts here and there. Yeah. But I don't necessarily know what else to kind of say about it. I do remember when the album first came out, and I was so disappointed because the lyric sheet did not match up what was on the album.
That's right.
I was trying to memorize the Grand Trex fans throughout the history of the band, and I just could. If I go to my original album, you will see where I've edited it and put new lyrics.
Oh, I love it.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of fun. I will never skip it. I remember the first time I got stoned. This was the first song I played on my headphones.
Oh wow,
that's a good one.
And I remember like, no, I get this song.
Now I get it. Song, right.
I guess
I need to go
listen to this album.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sober now, so I don't know if I should celebrate that. But I remember it was just like, one of those songs that was just it was out there, but completely enjoyable.
Yeah, I just thought it had very imaginative lyrics, very futuristic and kind of fun. But I loved her vocals when she goes into the chorus of the actual song. So I mean, it's one of those where if it's playing, I'm definitely not going to skip it.
Right.
There's no element in it that I'm like, oh, I just can't. So I mean, it's just an interesting album cut, I guess.
Now that I think about Aunt Carol, the lyric sheet was like sky blue, like the back cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was reading whatever it wasn't even in the song, right? Weren't the Dragonfly lyrics like half the lyric sheet? Because there's like a lot on there. Am I imagining things right? Because I haven't seen it since like 1982.
Yeah, it's a column and a half.
Okay, so Aunt Carol was reading whatever that was. We talked about how Island of the Lost Souls reminded us of Right By Your Side. Well, I'm gonna bring the Eurythmics back. This bass line in Dragonfly reminds me of the song Take Your Pain Away from an album.
Oh.
Kind of has that same groove, doesn't it? A little bit?
I can kind of hear that. I was going to actually connect it to anything on the 1984 album, but yeah, that's a good connection.
Well, see, Blondie was just once again predicting what was coming up.
Mm-hmm. So my take on this should have been the second track, not Island of Lost Souls. It should have gone right from Orchid Club into Dragonfly, and then I'll tell you what should have come next when it comes up. But boy, I totally am pulling a Jimmy tonight.
You are.
You don't want to pulling a Jimmy is a total different thing, and you don't want to get into that.
You're putting words in my mouth, and you're leaving out words I said. So there you go. This is like one of my favorite songs on this album. I mean, next to Orchid Club, this is like number 2 of my favorites on this album. And I have a lot of favorites on this album. And I love the whole spoken part. We're getting into that whole, what was coming out then. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing things like Running Man. You had Tron that came out. You had, so it really had kind of that space vibe, like Mark talked about, that science fiction vibe. But it was very thematic, especially when her pitch raises when she gets to the end of the spoken part, and then bam, we're into the sung verse, which I totally agree with Jimmy that her vocals on this are really good, especially when it goes into the what's a drag race? Can't you see those dragons speeding? I mean, it's a great hook, I think. And I can't say enough about this song. I just absolutely love this song.
Jim, I will say that I absolutely would have liked Dragonfly more if it came out of Orchid Club. Like, I'm just picturing it in my mind, and that so would have worked. All right, Jimmy's got something on the tip of his brain that he needs to say.
Yeah, because what I was just thinking is, were we to be combining things, wouldn't it be great if Europa had led into Dragonfly? The spoken part of Europa could have easily led into this Dragonfly spoken part. And I think that would have been a very interesting combination right there. To have those two kind of melded together.
Make us a playlist for that happens.
I'm telling you, that's why I had to raise my hand, because I knew I'd forget it. If I
love it.
say now.
There's Jim on the Fleetwood Mac. You know, you met him, Jimmy. Jim on the he always he has to raise his hand because he'll forget if I don't call on him right away. All right. Well, does anyone else want to speak on Dragonfly?
Yes, I love Dragonfly, and I think it's a very intelligent song, and it's definitely very Chris. It's one of his things that he's written that you can kind of have some insight into his personality. And speaking of Chris, one of the things that he told me when we first really got to know each other, like in 1993, he said that the third track on an album is the most important track on the album. So he was always advocating for a song that was in some way notable to be third. And it's interesting that his song there is third.
Did you say why?
No. I think I asked him and I didn't get a clear answer. I've thought about it on my own, and I kind of came to the conclusion, I think, that by then some of the shock of the brand new album has settled in a little bit, and you're kind of into the music now, and that you're paying attention, that sort of thing. That's my guess.
Well, I do feel
on Auto American, the third song would have been "Here's Looking at You," which I'm not sure that one is necessarily representative of. On Each of the Beat, it would have been Union City Blue, which definitely is a strong one.
In the Flesh, right?
Picture this on Parallel Lines. So
I see.
Definitely some strong ones in there.
Yeah, I see what he's saying. I mean, like, I know for me, when I'm putting my albums together, like, that is kind of like that's when I agree. That's when people are kind of like, because every album has its own sound. And like, that's when they're either going to like, okay, well, I heard enough of this album, or it's going to be like the thing that seals the deal. Like, I think I want to dig deeper and like actually hear this album out, So I don't know. For me, Dragonfly kind of symbolizes a lot of stuff for Blondie. One of the things that symbolizes, and I think everybody will agree with me, that Blondie is a weird band, because every album there's like, love songs. There's like songs that are kind of about like, like having a good time. And then there's like songs that like go into these like stories, like these really bizarre stories. I mean, like, to me, Dragonfly is a cross between Atomic, but then the subject matter is kind of like science fiction. It's almost like if Giant Ants from Space met Atomic. I mean, it's kind of like, it's one of those weird Blondie story songs that, the lovers aren't going to turn it on and be like, oh, let's play like a love song. Like, here's a song called Dragonfly. Like, it's like, it only makes sense on this album. I mean, it's like this little world, like she'll create these little worlds, and there's usually like 2 or 3 songs on each album where it's like, it's not really about anything except what's going on in the song, for lack of a better term, like I know in the early 70s, everybody was into story songs, and story songs were really big for a while. Blondie does story songs, but they're weird stories. So I don't know. And she's unique that way, because a lot of people like, I love Madonna, but you put a Madonna album on and it's just all like, love songs and like, let's party down type of songs. But like, he's talking about some intergalactic, space race.
except for Ray of Light and American Life.
Right. I mean, I love, I'm not bashing anybody. But I'm just saying that Debbie, her subject matter gets very bizarre.
Yeah.
Your comment
that was always one of the things that appealed to me so much.
Oh yeah,
there was so much variety about what they were singing about, and it was unlike anything that I'd known.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love Blondie, because I mean, you never know from one track to the next that they really do kind of take you on a journey. Sometimes it's a really choppy journey, like that is like, okay, we're really kind of all over the place, but it's never boring. So
the story and the like quirky story part of it really kind of made me think about the B-52s when you were describing that, Daniel. Of course, the B-52s is a much more lighthearted party, mentality, but I mean, they do the same thing, talking about hot pants and is that you Modine and Private Idaho and Devil in My Car. I mean, that's exactly what they do.
I am so intrigued by Chris's third track on the album. I think this is something I'm going to carry with me the rest of my life. But when you think there's millions of albums out there, so many albums are front led with the single, and the album opens with a single. Then by track 2, it might be some filler. Track 3, it really is when you know if you have a album on your hands or a hit song with a bunch of filler. Because I can think of so many albums that just start off with the hit, then total crap after that. And I feel like this is going to show up on a lot of my pod. I'm going to be thinking about this with every album we explore. The importance of track 3. Well, any other thoughts on Dragonfly? I give it thumbs up. All right. For Your Eyes Only. It was written to be a theme of a James Bond movie, but they didn't want the Blondie song. They wanted Blondie to sing the song that someone else had wrote, and Sheena Easton sing it instead, right? But Blondie wanted to put the song they wrote on this album, so here it is. How do y'all feel about For Your Eyes Only?
Well, I'm mad at the Bond franchise because I feel like they missed the opportunity. I mean, they would wait and then Duran Duran would produce a song, that is not characteristic of this big ballad, Shirley Bassey ballad. So, years later, they're using songs like Blondie's version of For Your Eyes Only. So I feel like it's their fault that they were not, in step with things. I think it's unfortunate, though, that we were robbed of an opportunity of seeing Debbie on the big screen singing a song in a Bond movie. Whatever it was, I would have just loved to have seen how that would have been, because in the movie they did film Sheena Easton singing the song, and obviously that song is, I don't know anybody else's opinion, but
I thought it sucked. I thought it was schmaltzy.
I mean, I don't think it's a great. It's just not. It's so syrupy, and it is what it is. But didn't it go to number 1 though? I mean, I think it was a big hit. But I just think that Bond really missed out. And especially if you've heard the alternate version of For Your Eyes Only that has the Bond motifs in it a little bit. That is, it was spot on. I just think that it was, Bond screwed up.
That alternate version is actually the one I prefer. I wish I could find a clean copy of that, but it's the one I prefer over the 2. I mean, the one on the album is great. I wouldn't have put it as where it is on this album. I would have put it somewhere else, but it's a great song, and it if you go to YouTube and you type in the search Blondie For Your Eyes Only, you'll get one of the hits will be where somebody actually took the opening to that movie, including the beginning sequence scene, and then pumped in the Blondie song while the opening credits are going, and it's perfect. I mean, it's absolutely perfect to that song. So, Jimmy, I couldn't agree with you more that the Bond franchise really missed out on that one. I mean, Blondie has proven to be what's what I'm looking for? Stable with movie soundtracks. I mean, look at Call Me. Their very first
What were they
hit,
thinking?
their very first hit out of the dugout, for a movie was Call Me. I mean, so yeah, that was a total miss on the Bond franchise.
And not to be bitchy, but in 2023, everyone's, the kids love, like, everyone loves Blondie still, and I feel like Sheena Easton's not really part of the cultural conversation at all.
No.
And I do have to give a shout out, my favorite Bond theme, "Goldeneye" by Tina Turner. I love she turned it out.
Yeah.
And I did love Die Another Day also, I've got to admit it.
Aha, I think, did a theme, Living Daylights, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they got to produce that themselves as well, just like Duran Duran did. So the Bond franchise finally got it, but too late.
Yes, it's too late.
Yeah, I think Blondie understood the assignment and they delivered on it.
I do
They
too.
really did. And I think time has only proven them more right. And and it was funny. I was going to bring up the YouTube clip because it fits in so nicely into like the whole Bond thing. And even the sound of it, even the drum roll into the song, it sounds like you're going into the Bond theme.
Right.
And I think the lyrics are far superior to,
Oh God, yeah.
Too long and too lonely for your eyes only. Oh, it's just so yummy. It's so lush. And whereas I can't stand this. Sheena Easton, I'm sure, is a lovely person and she's got a beautiful voice, but that song is shit.
I feel like everything Sheena Easton did that Prince didn't produce is just terrible.
I don't. Well, okay. I'm gonna be the detractor. I love Blondie's. I love. Obviously, I love this song, and I wish it was used in the Bond movie. I don't like Sheena Easton's song nearly as much as this. I don't hate the Sheena Easton song, and so I guess I'm the odd man out with that. I actually kind of a closet Sheena Easton fan.
Okay.
I think she's just, I think she's like a really phenomenal singer. She's like a pro when it comes to singing. I mean, she has an amazing voice, but like, some of her songs, I'm sorry, Telephone, that's such a great song. My long distance love affair. I mean, like it's, and yes, I do love her on the Prince song and stuff, but, my one thing about the Sheena Easton James Bond thing is like the way she says you is so weird. Only for you. Like, what is that? It's like, even when I was a little kid, I was like, what did you say? Only for what? Only for you. But
that's like Celine Dion's "Lerve" instead of "love." If you ever listen to her songs, when she says the word "love," it comes out as "lerve." No.
But so I'm not gonna hate on Sheena Easton. I like Sheena Easton. She's like one of my 80s pop queens, but no, I agree with everybody that they really missed out. And I really love what somebody said. I'm sorry, I was feeding my dogs, so I couldn't see who was saying what, but somebody had mentioned like getting to see Debbie Harry like in the beginning of a Bond movie would have been like orgasmic. Like that would have been like, just like the best thing ever. So yeah.
Don't you feel that would have added some weight to this album too? You know what I mean? Like
yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The attention it would have gotten this album would have been amazing. It would have probably changed the whole game because I think it would have gotten a lot of attention.
I loved Debbie's vocals on this too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just thought it really had that. I don't know.
And another great hook too. I mean, great hook in that song. So,
all these injustices in the music world. Son of a bitch. Well, any other thoughts on For Your Eyes Only? Before we take the morning train out of here to our sugar walls.
Which was originally titled 9 to 5, but Dolly Parton had a humongous hit with that same title. So they changed the name of that song to Morning Train, and then underneath it in parentheses it says 9 to 5.
I give this thumbs up. It's so funny because I'm like, I don't know about The Hunter. Then every song I'm like, oh, thumbs. I haven't given one thumbs down. Okay.
Oh, and that could have definitely been a single too. For Your Eyes Only, it definitely been a single.
And a better single than Island of Lost Souls, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm doing the Jimmy in my head. I'm like, what if side one ended with Island of Lost? Oh, but I'm skipping ahead. Side one of the album ends with The Beast, which of course is in the theme of The Hunter. A very interesting end to side one. What did you all think of this song?
Rapture Part 2.
Yeah, Debbie was rapping again.
I love this song.
It's a cool song.
I love this song. I mean, the guitar in it, the rhythm of it, her rap in it. Yes, it's another rap, but that seems to be a theme on a lot of the albums now. Even on her solo stuff, there was some rap in her solo stuff. She likes to do rap. I mean, she was inspired by all those hip hop artists that she was, exploring before she wrote the lyrics for Rapture. I mean, Fab Five Freddy and all of them. And I think of this more as not a Rapture Part 2, but maybe as a continued homage to an art form that hadn't really gotten its credit where the credit was due. You have Sugar Hill Gang with that awesome song they had out with Rapper's Delight that, people in the know loved that song, and it became a pretty popular song, but not in the mainstream, you know. And but I love the song. The story of it is really cool about, you know, going from, you know, no one wants to have anything to do with me to all of a sudden I'm the it guy, you know. And I love the kind of the trajectory of how that flip flops. And the vocal, you know, we want fun, we gotta run. I mean, that's right on, along with Dragonfly. I think this should have been. I have two places for this one, and one of the places that this should have gone to me would have been right after Dragonfly. But I have a second place where that could have gone to. So love this song.
I like
I
to
love the
think that
lyrics
she
at
was
the
asking
end.
me a question. Hiya, B, what you doing later?
Yes.
Mhm.
Hat check.
I just love the punks like fun, you know. That when I heard that, you know, it's like, yes, punks do like fun, but can't we have some punk music? But you know, to me at that time, this just felt. I mean, yeah, it rap was kind of like an urban kind of American genre. It was more of an urban, where Blondie like has now taken it even one step from Rapture into kind of like more of a Caucasian version of rap in a way.
See,
So
I didn't even think of this as rap. I thought of it as spoken word when I
it's
was listening to it.
that's right. But yeah, but it just felt again, is this too much of a retread? We've heard Rapture, so I hear this. There are wonderful things about it. I love those vocals at the end that Jim was talking about. But I just ask myself, is it too much of a retread of what we've heard?
I think it was the easy excuse that a lot of people gave, and I think music critics at the time were just very cynical and very dismissive of it, and they were just like, "Oh, they're rapping again, so therefore it's another you know, Rapture." And if you kind of listen to it, I mean, they do not take an R&B approach to it. There's no
Right.
riff in this song. You know, they're taking a much more, you know, ballsy approach to it, and it's very much in the rock vein with a rap or a spoken word mixed in with it. They're predating Walk This Way. They're predating rock bands, you know, using rap artists. You know, once again, they're kind of predicting what was going to be happening 3 years ahead of time. So I think it was pretty successful and pretty inventive at the time. I think it was kind of, once again, they're kind of continuing with this hunted, you know, theme of it. And I guess as I'm reading the lyrics and going through it, and I'm saying, you know, is the beast supposed to be, you know, Blondie? Here, B, over here, B. Is she speaking about Blondie? You know, or is she speaking of this fictional character that she's come up with? You know, she's talking about, you know, being out and people, you know, coming at her and stuff. And then also, you know, she makes, you know, headlines by not being, you know, part of, I'm the center of attraction by staying off the streets, you know. And I guess she was just kind of making a comment on her life at that time and how kind of crazy that kind of life is, and just, you know, the public life of fame and stuff. And I thought it was a very, very interesting take on that type of life. And it definitely kind of goes along with what they've said later on and what they were feeling at that time, and feeling very much, you know, constricted by the fame that they had created and not having the freedom of when they didn't go out every night. You know, there was more freedom in that. So I think it was a lot of fun. I remember on the Deaf, Dumb and Blonde tour, she performed this song, and I never expected to hear this song live. And she, with a very stripped down band, performed this song. And right after it went into Detroit 442, which was killer. But I've learned to really, really appreciate this song a lot more over the years. I think it's a great song.
Yeah,
I just wish maybe they had owned, like she had owned this as her story, you know, instead of putting it on I Am the Beast. If the story had been more personalized about, this is my experience, instead of take it, because it kind of took me again to like a science fiction movie. I am the beast. You know, maybe if it had just been, she just sang it about her experiences in her life of being hunted by paparazzi and things like that, maybe I might have, you know, related to it a little bit more. It's not a song I dislike at all. So when I say Rapture Part 2, I mean, I love Rapture, so I'm going to love Part 2 as well. But in listening to it, following Auto American, you're just kind of like, okay, they're using some elements and just taking it in a different direction.
I'm going to agree with Mark that I think at least the spoken word rap part, we can debate that later. I think it is more biographical of the band. They started out playing in these horrible clubs, and people always told them they were a horrible band and didn't want to have anything to do with them. And then all of a sudden, they're the beast. How you be? What you doing later? That everybody wants a little piece of them. And Jim, you brought up a line about punks like fun, and I wonder if that wasn't a little bit of a slap in the face to the people in the punk world that were really dogging on the band when Heart of Glass came out. Oh, they sold out. They're doing disco songs and this and that. Yeah, they did a disco song, but that's not the whole album. They did not sell out. Parallel Lines has a ton of diversity on it. And by the way, that was the third single, I think, released from that album before the album even got any kind of recognition at all. So, I wonder if that Punks Like Fun is maybe a little bit of a slap in the face to those folks.
Good point.
And the back to Mark's point about the lyrics not being the same on here. Did you find that with this song too, Mark? Because she does one line where punks like fun and feeling fine. That's not on here, but she sings that line, and yes, it drives me bonkers. But anyway, all right, I'll be quiet because there's other people that need to talk still.
I'm enjoying hearing what I know this would be controversial, but I just always felt like this was kind of a filler track. And this is probably one that I would have skipped. Just never one of my favorites. But hearing you guys talk about it, I will revisit it a couple more times. All right. Any other thoughts on The Beast? The Beast. Jimmy.
Oh, I'm waiting. I'm queuing up for next track.
Well, we are flipping over the album. And my record behind me, I think I have the promo single of War Child. I think it's the same song on both sides. The extended version. I'm gonna just share how I remember when this album came out. Like, I wasn't loving any of the songs like I loved the Blondie songs before it. And when I heard the synth, I'm like, yes. But then when those Holding Out for a Hero horns came in, is kind of when I checked out a little bit. But now, 40 years later, I kind of liked it more again. So I kind of have my relationship with War Child is up and down. Jimmy, take it away.
Yes. When I flipped over side 2 and I heard the synth, this is exactly the direction I wanted Blondie to be going in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was so optimistic. I was like, this is what I want my band to do. And you hit it, Jeremy, because then I get to a place where I'm like, are we a little overproduced at this point? There's a little bit, because the riff was so great. But then if you listen to it, it's like they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink into that song. There are great elements in it, but they're masked by horn after horn. And it's just a great song. But it has one of my favorite vocal phrasing of Debbie of all time. It starts with "You weren't discovered by the Khmer Rouge," and then they have, you would have troubles on the nightly news. I love that play with her vocal, and it might be one of my favorite ways her voice was used in a song. But I just wish that it could have gone a little bit more into staying in that opening, electronic synthesizer.
I wanted that phase so bad. The first time I remember just doing that, I wanted so bad.
I really would love for somebody to strip this one back a little bit, because I think if you took away some of the bombastic elements, it's a freaking great song. I love it. So, this was the one I was most excited to talk about.
Imagine how this whole album would sit differently if this just one song did have a more synth heavy mix and everything else stayed the same on the album. Like, it really would have given a kind of anchor, to the album. Like, I think of Plastic Letters. There's songs that I don't want to say they're filler, but to me on Plastic Letters, the songs I love a lot really anchor the album and then make the other ones enjoyable. And I feel like something that could have really anchored the beginning of side 2 of The Hunter for me could have made the journey of the whole thing a little bit maybe more impressionable, because you have to admit those horns are fucking right out of Bonnie Tyler right there.
I'm never going to look at that song the same way again, but I do agree about the horns. I think the horns in that song are like how I feel about Debbie's vocals in Island of Lost Souls. I mean, it's like all of a sudden, boom, oh, hey, there's horns, you know, oh, there's a lot of horns in this song, you know, and you just, it's like, oh, and I totally agree with Jimmy. That should have been, I think, can't remember, somebody else said this too, that should have been stripped back a little bit more. That whole synth vibe should have been upped a little bit more, maybe even let Jimmy play with some of the other different synth sounds that were coming out at that time to add elements and character to the song. I love the lyrics to it. I think the lyrics were very timely. I totally get the thing about being overproduced and throwing the kitchen sink at the song, but when they did that with the drums, especially in the remix, the extended version of it, and you got this whole like 2 or 3 minute spot where it's just those boom, boom, you know, those drums going and that synth, going at the same time. It's like, yeah, drive it home, baby, drive it home with that. And so I do love that about that song. I agree that this should have been released as a single. Again, maybe not the first or even the second single, but I feel like that they didn't make a mistake by releasing this as a single and also doing an extended version of it.
We keep talking about
released as a single. I thought this was the second single.
This was the second single. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
I know we keep talking about the Eurythmics, but I picture this song with like a Sweet Dreams, the album production.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like I love that
great.
the whole Sweet Dreams album, that really stripped down kind of dark synth. I think it really could have worked. Oh,
little bit.
That's what I wanted. That is what I wanted from the band.
A little bit of trivia about that. The Touch album right after was recorded during the same sessions that they recorded Sweet Dreams.
Oh, really? I love Touch just as much as
Touch
Sweet
is
Dreams.
awesome.
Yes.
All right. I'm sure there's more thoughts on War Child.
I have a few.
I wanted to let you know that the working title of War Child is Nigel's House Payment Song. I don't know what it meant or anything, but that was written on the side of the 2-inch tapes that were in Chris's basement when I first met him.
Oh, fun.
Probably because Nigel couldn't afford to pay for his house because they used all the money on the 10 hours the studio it took to record all these layers of Bonnie Tyler. All right. That's awesome. Next, Mark, do you have anything to say about War Child?
I mean, nothing that hasn't already been said. I always felt like it was kind of Blondie's first attempt, or at a political song and stuff, and it just kind of continues along. I keep going back to there's definitely this feeling of the people who are being hunted and stuff like that. So I always thought it was interesting in that respect. I do agree on the overuse of the horns and stuff, but I do feel that this would have been a better lead-in single than, say, Island of Lost Souls. If it were between the two, I think this would have made a much more stronger statement than, say, Island of Lost Souls. I love Clem's drums. I love the tribal sound of it, and I love Debbie's vocals. And I love Debbie's vocals on this album. She started pushing herself again and started really telling stories, and she did kind of get herself into a very primitive, guttural kind of sound, which worked really well with her voice. I love her little riffing at the end, the ooh, ooh, oh, oh. I love that. I thought that was really, really great. But yeah, I'm not angry at the song, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't skip it, but I don't love it as much as the first two measures. I heard that, I'm like, oh, here we go, here it is. And then I keep bringing her up, but then Bonnie Tyler showed up. All right. Well, any other thoughts on War Child? I'm going to give it one up and one sideways. I'm
going to give it kind of depending on the parts of the song. I do agree when somebody mentioned that PLO Lovers
section.
that is that's like a really magical part of that song. Like to me,
Absolutely.
that's one of my favorite parts of a Blondie song. Like it's one of my favorite parts. Like if I had to picture, but it's in the middle of a song that's kind of all over the place. I like the song, but I mean, a lot, like I agree with everybody. Like there's a lot of production that's kind of just like really like, too much. But then that's really simple that, you weren't discovered by the Kumarus. And then like the call and response that they do.
Yes.
I love it.
Really
Yes.
gorgeous. It's hypnotic.
Yes.
I could picture that part. I could picture the whole song being done. I would love to hear like a really good, like sparse dance remix of it. I bet it would be really amazing.
Yeah.
I bet it could have been a hit. Actually,
Yeah.
dare I say it? Okay, I
Hey,
gotta
well, then
ask.
maybe that guy would remix it. I got him to remix Live It Up off of Auto American, and he did the remix of that.
Oh,
Maybe we
yeah.
should request him to do this.
War Child would be a great.
I
War
would.
Child would be a great.
Yeah, because he could strip that down.
And
I
here we
give it-
are in
I give it
2023.
this.
That's the same thing I give.
I
We're
give
still
it
in-
this, and I would have
I'm gonna-
put this
I'm gonna-
after. I would have put this after the Beast on side one.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. So it would have ended the side.
No, it would have gone Orchid Club, Dragonfly, The Beast, War Child, and then I picked something else to end
Okay.
side one, but we haven't gotten to that yet.
And here we are still in war in 2023. All right. Moving on. Little Caesar. When I heard the song today, like Daniel said, I haven't heard this song in a long time. And what do you all think of this one? What do you all think of this one?
A bizarre song.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I mean, it's kind of like I know for a long time. I'm like, what is she thinking? This song is like so bizarre. Like, I don't know. Like, I was like, I don't know who Little Caesar is, and I don't know why I should care about him. But like later on, like that. So the bizarre thing is, like, I listened to it again, and I was reading the YouTube comments. It's like actually listening to it on YouTube, and like people were pointing out stuff, and I'm like, oh, is this like about a gay guy? Like, is this her? Like, I don't know. Like, it's like they used to call me queer. They call me rudely, and like, and then it's like the lyrics. Like now, it's like I'm wondering, like, is like she's singing about like some guy like who's like named Little Caesar, who's like, I don't know, like some gay guy or something. I don't know. I have no idea.
What if the song's about pizza and they did a typo? It should have been called Little Caesars.
I don't think they existed back then.
And the podcast just reached its lowest point.
My name is Papa John's.
now I want Crazy
Friends
Bread.
call me Papa J.
Some people call me Crazy Bread. This is a song when I was a child. I felt this was a kind of a filler track. When I listened to it today, it didn't bother me at all, though.
It didn't bother me as much now. I used to skip over it every single time and now I actually I could listen to it now.
This is another, I like the song. And this is one where I do like the horns in this song because they kind of they kind of flow with the beat of the song, and they're not overpowering, and they're not, and then when she goes into her weirded tone, in the singing part of this, it's just I like the song a lot. I mean, I hated that it was released as a B-side for War Child. I don't know if this could have been a single, but actually I guess it was probably good release as a B-side because I always listened to the B-side and I would have probably known it, loved it as much if I didn't, turn over War Child first. But even though I did have the album, but because it was on War Child, it was more important at that time because it was a B-side. But yeah, it just kind of, it's one of those, it reminds me a little bit of Die Young Stay Pretty. I mean, Die Young Stay Pretty, agreed, is a better song. But it kind of has that whole, you just want to kind of bounce along with it, as it's playing over your radio speakers. I would put this one as the last song on side one.
Oh, okay. I know we keep talking about Debbie's vocals on the song, but I really feel like almost more than a lot of other singers I can think of. She's such a character actress when she's singing, and I just feel like I love what she did with her voice in the song. That's the thing that caught my ear today when I was listening to it. Is I'm like, okay, this is Debbie slipping into this mode. Anyone else? Little Caesars?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jeremy. I've always said that I felt like she has an actorly voice, like she can really convey a character and everything. I mean, I don't, like I said, the song doesn't make me angry or anything, but and it's a weird song, definitely. But I like Blondie when they're weird. I mean, they intrigue me when they're weird. I don't necessarily know if it's 100% successful. She's talking of my name is Little Caesar, and you can't live with me, can't live without me. It's like a lot of contradictions, and you get to the end of the song, and you're like, I'm Little Caesar, yeah, and I'm like, who is Little Caesar? I have no idea who Little Caesar is. And it's just, I mean, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point. But filler, maybe not, but it's, completely successful, not necessarily either. So that's all.
Pizza. Jimmy.
Pizza.
Well, my notes say cuckoo reject.
Oh.
I just really, yeah, I just don't take, to me, this is something that they may have been working on for Cuckoo and it got cut and they just decided to use it for here. This song just does not mesh well with me. It's never been one of my favorite Blondie songs or one that I would choose to listen to. For a lot of reasons. I appreciate the character that she can put on in vocals, but this character I didn't really need to meet. I didn't need to see this show. I'm changing the channel on.
You didn't need that crazy bread. Am I alone? I know this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I love the Cuckoo album.
I do too.
Okay.
I can't wait for our Debbie solo podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd love every song on the Cuckoo album from beginning to end. It's definitely a journey. All right, next. Okay, Little Caesar. I don't know.
I'm going to do this.
Look, I'm kind of like...
The lyrics, not so much, but the musicality of it, I love. So,
well, my boyfriend, Jimmy Destry, shows up with a little Farfista organ with Dance Way. I loved this song in 1982, and I still love it. And whenever I used to do a lot of shows in New York City back in the 2000s, early 2010s, and whenever I drove down the BQE, I always thought of Debbie singing about the Brooklyn Queen Expressway in this. I feel like this is a kind of a classically sounding Blondie song, and after the bombast of War Child and the whatever you want to say about Little Caesar, it was nice to hear Blondie kind of being Blondie. I love this song. When I listen to it today, I still love it. Loved it then, loved it now. How do y'all feel about this one?
I love this song. This song reminds me of it kind of has like a fun, I mean, I'm not going to compare any song to like Dreaming or anything, but it has that vibe. I mean, it just has like that real kind of like retro, throwback vibe that Blondie like kind of like put Blondie on the map, it's like that mixture of like new wave and like just like retro sound. I mean, it's just such a feel-good track, and her vocals sound so good on it. Like she's like, I really love her vocals on it.
Can you imagine a video where she was like kind of dressed up 50s? Because at this time you had like the Stray Cats coming out and like different retro stuff happening on the charts. So
this would have actually been a good single. Like I could have pictured this song. I don't know.
I agree with both of you, and Jeremy, that actually was one of the comments I had written down about this song. Is that again, you got Stray Cats with their sound that's come out. You've got Billy Joel, who's getting ready to release Uptown Girl, later that year or a year later or whatever that came out, and there was kind of a resurgence of this kind of classic sound, and this absolutely could have been a single, and I think it should have been either the first or the second single released from this album. And I would not have put it as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Actually, I would have kept it exactly where it is on this album in its placement. But yeah, and the chorus, where they're going I mean, and you've got the layers of voices and stuff.
I love it.
Just awesome. I mean, and it is a very happy song. And, you find yourself in your car going, back and forth to it, and it's great.
Okay, you guys are all...
The Beatle in my bathroom is a reference to the Beatles and maybe listening to the radio in the bathroom. Who knows?
You guys are gonna make fun of me, but you know what else came out a year later that was so in this vein, and it's an album that I love. It's total like cheese, but Tracy Ullman's "You Broke My Heart" in 17 Places.
Yes,
a classic album.
Yes,
that was so like that retro thing. They Don't Know was a huge hit. I feel like Dance Way could sit right next to They Don't Know.
Did she cover Blondie on that album too?
Yep, you touched
Presence Dear on that, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Dance Way, I think, is in an album that's pretty dark and dense, which I'm not criticizing it for. But Dance Way comes in and it's just like a much needed breath of fresh air. You're like, okay, and it's and it's just a lot of fun, and I just love the organ in it and everything, and just and the drum beat and the whole thing. I think it just has a fun retro feel. It was funny as I was listening to it today. I said this wouldn't have actually felt out of place on her Rockbird album, years later. With the heavy organ and and the horns and everything. So, but I just think this was much needed on side 2 after such heaviness. So,
and that's another album that I love every song on. Like I love Rockbird beginning to end. Daniel.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm just having this thought right now, and I may be completely off base, but I'm looking at the lyrics now and I'm thinking, I'm wondering if this song actually is about, because going one way to the runway, taking the subway to the runway, and then Fingers in the Hairdo. It's almost like this song is about the screaming girls going to see the Beatles arriving at JFK. Like that, to me, is what I'm picturing now when I'm looking at the lyrics. Like that it could actually be another story song, but it's a little bit more vague. It's not, like sometimes, songs will convey a moment in time, but they do it in a way that's so subtle. So now, like, that's what I'm picturing when I look at the lyrics is like a hair hopper, like some girl, like, fingers in the hairdo, going to the runway, runway, like a runway, an airport runway. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a great, fun song. I mean, it is a breath of fresh air, kind of, in a way. I mean, it's kind of like reminiscent of the Blondie we've all known and loved. And so it's kind of almost comforting in a way to hear this. It's like, okay, because after Little Caesar, I really needed them to bring it back to me somehow. And this song kind of really does bring me back into the Blondie vibe. So I just think it's fun. There we go.
And I also feel like it's a good enough song where it doesn't, even though it's classic, it doesn't feel like a retread or filler to me.
Right.
Well, and didn't they, backing up on Daniel's point here, didn't Blondie really kind of have the same reaction from the European people, especially in England, that we had towards the Beatles over here? I mean, it could also be, a mixture of both, a little biographical on them, autobiographical for them as well, especially if Jimmy wrote it, because I know all the guys in the band were definitely getting, mauled by the girls who loved Blondie. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great connection.
A little side note, did anyone notice on the remastered CD, her wig's a lot more white and they zoom out on the picture and kind of center it more? I always thought that was interesting because the other covers are pretty, close to the original. All right, any other thoughts on Dance Away? I gave it 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
Yep.
I have got to run a quick errand, but you guys feel free to proceed with the next song, and I will have my last comment when I return in just a minute.
All right.
Can
I find the right words to say? I feel like kind of continuing on where Dance Way was, this also feels kind of like Blondie that I know a little bit, and not in a bad way. I always like this song.
I like the song, and it was funny. I was listening to it. I like the guitar solo on it a lot. I like Clem's drums on it a lot. I always felt like Debbie's vocal was it sounded forced to me.
Okay.
It was never really my favorite vocal of hers, but I like the musicianship on it, and I've grown to like it more and more as the years have gone on. But it's not my like all-time favorite, and my all-time favorite Jimmy Destry pen song. But I I think it's a nice continuation from Dance Way, like you said.
And definitely a liberal use of parentheses in the title.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Mark. Its placement on the album is that fourth track on the third side, right after Dance Away, is perfect. I really think that there's two things I don't like about it, and one is Debbie's vocals. I think that they do sound forced, and it's almost like she was rushed to get the vocals down for this. So it's like she wasn't able to, take time and feel the lyrics and feel the music and really put her character into it. I wish that a different take could have been made, or maybe a better take used, and maybe some of that Mike Chapman magic with the layering of her vocals. He's always said, when I layer Debbie's vocals, it's the most awesome sound I've ever heard. And, if he could have layered her vocals, I can't remember. I don't think they are layered, at least not during the verses. If he could have done something with that, maybe even put a little reverb on it or something like that,
yeah,
that would have made that a little bit better. The other thing I don't like about this song is how it drum beat, boom, look up. It goes right into the vocals. I need a little cushion. I need get me into the song before you start singing those lyrics. It was very unique. You don't hear a lot of songs like that. So that definitely makes the song very unique. But if they could have added just a little bit of an introduction there somehow, some way, maybe even a longer drum roll into the song would have been awesome. I do think this could have been a single, maybe not a first single, but I think this could have also been released as a single. I in general love this song.
I think I'm still on the Janet Jackson train from last night, because I'm like, well, this was a Janet album. They would have had an interlude before the song.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else on Can I Have the Right Words to Say?
My notes say, can I find the right song to sing?
I just rolled my eyes at you. Did you see that?
I know. It's like, I know you're going to hate me, but for me, this song, it just did not work for me in any capacity, right? Really. It's another Little Caesar for me. It just, I don't even know what to say to suggest to make it better. I can't find the right words to say. I agree. I can't.
Well, Jimmy, I think you've said plenty. Oh, anyone else on this one? Am I the only one that really likes this song?
No, I do. I like this
Jim
song.
loves it. I feel terrible that Jim loves it, and for me, it's just not my vibe at all.
That's the beauty of music, is that different things speak to different people. We all love Blondie.
This is, my thought on the song is that it's a song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't hate it. I love it. It's like, there has to be, in an album that has so many really amazing standout tracks, there's going to be songs that aren't up to those. And so this song is like a song that happens. And I'll listen to it, but it's on it, but I'm not going to be stopping what I'm doing. Whereas,
yeah, I'm not gonna skip this one. Now I won't skip it like I will some others. So there is that.
Gosh, Jimmy, right before you said that, I had my finger on the unfriend button on Facebook. So I'm glad you said that, because that saved you.
I owe you. Maybe we'll talk about the For Your Eyes Only version, whatever.
Jimmy, can we stay friends on Facebook? All right, I'm gonna give this song I give it thumbs up. I think it's a nice exhale after Dance Way. Thumbs down on the top. Okay, we have a see. I love how this album is hitting all of us who are all huge fans of Blondie. Still, different songs are hitting different people. All right. English
And I would have kept the
Boys.
song right where it was too. So
Okay. English Boys, the final video that they filmed until they reformed. Frank isn't even in the video, right? Debbie's wearing a wig. No one looks like they look just as unhappy as they do in the catering outfit on the album cover.
and they look like they're in front of a green screen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're in front of a green screen.
Oh yeah.
They left
Oh,
the
yeah.
blue screen of the album cover for the green screen of the video studio. English Boys is about the Beatles, right?
Yeah, apparently it was about her her feeling the loss, because it was shortly after the death of John Lennon.
Right.
Just that feeling of, lost youth, apparently. I think it's a beautiful song. I think it might be one of the best songs on the album. I think her vocal is really, really tender. I think the lyrics are incredibly thought out. I remember reading an article. I think it was an interview with Clem Burke, and he had said that Dave Stewart said that this was his favorite Blondie song. And he always said that they regretted that this was not a single. But I think the lyrics were really wonderful. I know that at the time, Debbie had said in interviews, or maybe even in her book, that she had corresponded, or her people and John Lennon's people had corresponded with each other. John Lennon was quite fond of the Auto-American album, and they had sent like messages back and forth. And then as I was listening to it today, I was like reading the lyric, "We knew each other well, although we never met. Messages passed in turn, equal respect." And it was how they had like that equal respect for each other. And I was like, wow, that is an really, really like tender, beautiful lyric. And it just made me love the song that much more. The one criticism, if you can even call it, because I really can't criticize the song, I love the chorus. The first verse of the first verse, does it feel the same to you? It has 4 lines, and the second has 3. And I always felt like there was supposed to be something else after that third line. And I also noticed that when they end the song, they only end it after the first one, and I always felt like it ended better. So, but that was like the only like little tiny nitpick that I could possibly have about the song. It's one of my favorites on this album.
Maybe all those Dragonfly extra lyrics could have gone in that spot.
Yeah.
I felt like this song brought back a little bit of that tinge of atmosphere that we had from like the Shaylas and the Union City Blue. Just that a little tinge of.
This is the album's Shayla for me. I mean,
yeah.
Like that, like, or the Touched by Your Presence, Dear, like, they do those kind of, I mean, I don't even know if there's an acoustic guitar in this, but they have those kind of more like kind of earthy sounding songs in the middle of like these like futuristic things and new wave and punk and whatever. But then they'll always have these songs. Again, there's such a diverse band that it's kind of like this is kind of like the kind of more organic vibe like song, vibey kind of song, and
the atmosphere.
I agree that this is a really gorgeous song, and I love her vocals in this. I didn't know. I'm really glad that you just told that story about her communicating with John Lennon. I actually did not realize that, so now I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the song again. That's pretty wild. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I love this song too. And I kind of knew the story about Auto-American, but I did not realize that she and Lennon or their people corresponded back and forth, which started with his enjoyment of that album. So that is a very neat tidbit of trivia there. But love the song. I can't say one bad thing about this song. I think the theme of it is perfect. I think the sound really is a Blondie sound. It's not overproduced, and her vocals are great in this song. And again, another great hook with the chorus. Does it feel the same for you? It's just, you can hear people singing that along with her, because I don't know, this definitely would have been a choice I would have made as a single from this album.
Didn't one of the band members say that they believed that it would have been a #1 single had it not been pulled because of the invasion of the Falklands.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it might have been Chris or Clem, I believe, said that they were convinced that could have been a number one, but it wasn't. You know, the video, it only played once ever. It played on a French television show a single time, and then then the video was pulled. There's a poor quality copy of it out on YouTube. And years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago at this point, I had someone write me from France, and he had access to some French television video that had been converted onto a hard drive. And I don't know how he got it. It was some surreptitious means or whatever, but he was selling the video by the minute, like $10 a minute or something. And that was one of the songs that one of the things that he had in Blondie was a broadcast quality copy of this video. And he had a bunch of other live performances that were only from French television. And I bought it. So I have the best quality copy of it that exists.
Wow.
Since then, that archive has been destroyed, and I've offered it to the band so that they can use it at such point if they choose to put that out. And hopefully they'll put that out, and there's other performances, because some of them, they looked and sounded amazing.
That would be very cool to see. Just a broadcast quality of that video. Absolutely. Was there ever a promo vinyl release of that song, or did it not make it to that point?
I don't think it made it to that point. If there was, I wasn't aware of it.
Jimmy, our resident playlist maker, has anyone ever made a playlist of, the songs that came out in 1981, 82 that were inspired by the death of John Lennon? I feel like so many people, I can think of so many artists that I love.
Oh, yeah.
Like Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks was partially inspired on this song, Revolution by Tina Marie. I'm sure we could sit
Empty
here.
Garden.
Yeah. So much great art came out of such a terrible tragedy. So, well, English boys, are we all thumbs up on this one? Did anyone else have anything to add to this one beautiful song?
Just that I would have kept it in exactly the same. No, I would not have kept this in the exact same place. I would have actually changed this, but I'll tell you later.
Okay. Well, the album ends with a cover. Who did the original?
Was it Smokey
Smokey
Robinson?
Smokey Robinson. The hunter gets captured by the game, so I guess you could say this is the title track indirectly. I kind of enjoyed this as the album closer. I thought it was kind of a little slinky. I kind of liked it more than some of the Blondie originals on the album, I hate to say. But yeah, a good closing track, and the last thing we'd hear from Blondie the band till 1999, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do y'all think of this?
Technically 97.
97?
Because
true.
They did 3 live shows in 97. The demos were made in 96, but they weren't ever released.
Did they? And they did a song. They also did a song around the same time, an Iggy Pop tribute album.
Have You Ever or whatever?
They used the name
Ordinary Bummer.
Yes, Ordinary Bummer. And they
Adolf's Dog.
Adolf's Dog on that. So that was right around that same time too. That's a great song. That's a great remake of a cover.
Yeah, I love this. I love the Hunter. I think the drums echo back to Orchid Club, so I think it really brings it full circle in a way. I thought it was great, the track to end of the album. I think the only unfortunate thing was that Grace Jones had just done a version of it in 1980, which I'm a huge Grace Jones fan.
Oh, was it on Warm Leatherette?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I would do a Grace Jones.
No, wait a minute, Warm Leatherette or... Yes, it was. Yeah, the one before Nightclubbing. Yes. And so I'm a huge Grace Jones fan. So then, it's like I would not want to have to choose which is my favorite version. I think Blondie's version for this album, though, is really perfect way to close out the album. So I thought that was genius.
I thought the song itself, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mark. You go first.
I'm sorry. I thought the song itself was quite prophetic, and it was kind of interesting that this was be like the last song that we heard, following this time. It was, I love the take that they took on it and continuing with like that kind of tribal feel of it. I love the drums and everything. I think Debbie's vocal is really, really, really restrained to perfection in this. I think they did a great job on creating that feel. I'm really, really quite proud of her vocals for the most part on this album. I really do enjoy them. What I do want to say is the background vocals on this, though, I know they kind of went in and got some background vocalists to kind of tweak it, and I think they did like a really amazing job. I was listening to the song today, and just those soft, like those, ooh, you hear that just in the back. And actually, that was a vocalist. I came across her from that movie, 20 Feet from Stardom, or whatever that documentary was, and this vocalist Janice.
That was a great documentary.
Darvis or something, who did a lot of work with Sting later, where she would like sing with him a lot. We'll Be Together Again and stuff, where she like really, really elevated his sound. And she's doing the background vocals on that. And I think it's phenomenal work. And I just think it just creates a really, really great moody feel to the whole thing. And just like I said, it's very, very tells of the forthcoming future of the band and stuff. So kind of brilliant art wise, not great for them, but I'm very fond of the song.
All right. Further thoughts on the closing track of The Hunter?
The song was used to open the 1989 Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde tour.
Oh, that's right. It was, wasn't it?
Yep, the first
awesome.
track. Yep.
That was. And I remember sitting there thinking, why is she opening up with this song? Of course, I was like 22 at the time, but I love this song, and I totally agree with I love their take of it. I love that it does have kind of that almost tribal boom, 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 boom sound to it. The vocals are amazing, including the background vocals. I think her vocals are very sexy on this song, very alluring. I would not have put this as the last song on the album. I would have put this as the first track on the second side.
Interesting.
Well, the first side I would have done Orchid Club, Dragonfly, The Beast, War Child, and Little Caesar. They're all kind of similar. And then there were a couple more songs, The Hunter and Island, that are kind of still along that same vein. So I would have started off side 2 with The Hunter, then gone into Island. Then I would have done Dance Away, Find the Right Words, For Your Eyes. And I would have ended this album with English Boys, because it is such
Interesting.
A cool homage to somebody who was such a stronghold on music in the 60s and 70s. And what a better way to tribute somebody than to put it as the very last track to leave your listeners with. But Hunter gets captured by the game, again with parentheses, I think. Great song, absolutely beautiful. I almost think this could have, with the way music was changing at the time, I almost think this could have been a single.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one? What I was going to say is, Jimmy, I don't want to threaten everyone with a good time, but I would do a Grace Jones Phonogenics someday too, because I love all her work. All the way from the first album through Hurricane. They were all...
Are you talking about the disco era?
I love the disco albums. Yeah.
Okay. I can do it.
The La Vie en Rose, her disco version that goes on for 12 minutes.
That is perfection. Play it. Yes. Okay.
All right.
I'm
so
back to Blondie.
Hunter captured by the game. All right. Well, the time has come. We are ending the first phase of... We've gone from the first album, which a lot of you didn't come along till the third album.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've done the whole first phase of Blondie. So every one of these we do, I feel like I get to know you all more, and I just like you more and more every time. And I feel like we're going to spend a lot more time together in the future doing these. It's such a pleasure. And Did you all make me like the Hunter? Yes, a little bit more. I think this, especially the resequences, kind of put the songs in a different light for me. So let's do our ratings of the album, and then of course we'll end with Jimmy's iconic resequence.
Mine will be better.
Oh, Jim's iconic resequence. I loved your sequence, Jim.
Yeah, I'm deferring to Jim on this one. I think he's already done it. I think that you are saying you're liking us more and more. I think if I were to say anything else, I might get booted out of the group. So.
No, you won't. No, go ahead and say it.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So, Jimmy, let's start with you. What do you rank the Hunter scale of 1 to 10?
Honestly, Jimmy,
I have it as a 7.
I think that's fair.
I mean, in comparison to the Auto American 10, I just felt like this had too many weak, soggy moments for me. So.
All right, we will move on to Mark.
Okay. What did I gave Auto American a personal 10, and then I said, but I think logically it's probably an 8, so I guess I made it a 9. I will give the Hunter an 8.
An 8? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Barry, do you have a rating for us?
I'd have to go with a 7. It's probably my least favorite of Blondie's original albums. But I still love a lot of the tracks on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jim, our resequencer.
Whereas the last time I gave Auto American a 9.5, now I've changed that to a 10 because this was my 10, but after re-listening to it and comparing it to Auto American, this one is now the 9.5.
Okay.
And I don't know what my connection is with this album, maybe because it was such an underdog and it didn't get the promotion it probably should have gotten to have kept the Blondie ball rolling. I disagree with the singles that were released from this album. I probably would have released Dance Away, Find the Right Words, For Your Eyes, and English Boys is what I would have released from this album, because I think those were more radio friendly and fit more into the time period where there was some revisiting of older styles and stuff like that. And English Boys being very timely, with its content, and, Lennon only having been gone, not even a full year before this album was released. So I give this a 10. It has a very strong hold in my heart. I love every song on it, even Island of Lost Souls. And this is one that I will listen to front to back without skipping anything. In my order.
In your order. All right, Daniel.
Okay, I'm not going to give it a 10, even though it is. So this, I agree with what was just shared. This is a really special album for me. Like, for some reason, I have like some weird connection to it. It would get a 10 from me but then there are actually a couple tracks. It's weird because in my mind, it's almost like one of my perfect Blondie albums, but then like a couple tracks show up and they're like, but hey, we're here too. And so then like Little Caesar, Little Caesar, and probably, can I find the right words to wait? Yeah. Well, but I like that song. It's really just Little Caesar kind of is like the one song that I don't really, it doesn't really vibe with me at all. And then there's a couple other songs that I think, aren't as strong as some of the songs on like Eat to the Beat. I'm like spending way too much time dissecting this right now. I am going to say that it's like a 9.2.
All right. Well, I guess I'm on the chopping block. When I think of Blondie and even Debbie Harry solo, I mean, I think of some of the best songs of all time. Like, some of Blondie's songs throughout the discography are just literally some of my favorite albums and songs of all time. So once we get to the Hunter, I don't think these are the best songs of all time by any band ever, but I also don't think they're the worst. So I'm gonna kind of go with Jimmy and Barry and give it a 7. You know what? Everything I said was a lie because I think Orchid Club is one of the. It's up there on that level. Like when you think of that song, like that is to me as good as anything Blondie ever did, which is why I had to give this album a 7. Without the couple songs that I think are iconic moments, it might be a little bit lower, but if someone's watching this podcast, this is definitely an album worth checking out. It's definitely not garbage. As in trash, not the band that Blondie frequently tours with. But yeah, I don't think it's justice for the Hunter like we did for Demita Joe last night, but I think it could have been a bigger hit. I think it should have had some singles. I think it could have benefited from maybe a little bit different promotion and single choice. So
I did do a reimagined version of the Hunter, but out of respect for the group, I think it's best I leave that. Leave that on the notebook.
I'd love to. I think we'd all love to hear it.
Yeah, share it.
Okay. All right. This is a reimagination of this entire album. Okay.
We made a pact to stay friends.
Right. Don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings at all, and respect everybody's opinion, and don't disagree with it at all. But here would be the Hunter reimagined, and you're going to see where this is going.
Okay.
Starting with Orchid Club, Island of Lost Souls, Inner City Spillover, which I'm stealing from Cuckoo and imagining Cuckoo didn't exist and Blondie did it. And if you listen to that song, you can actually very easily hear Blondie having done it. Dragonfly, For Your Eyes Only, and Dance Away. Flip It Over, War Child, Under Arrest, another steal, yet it still sounds like Blondie. The Jam Was Moving, which is a cheat because I personally love that song so much, and the Hunter only had 11 songs and I'm putting 12. The Beast, Chrome, and then the Hunter gets captured by the game. And I have literally spent I don't even know how many versions of playing around with trying to move things and arrangements I have gotten to. I actually did one playlist where I took songs from Auto American and pretended like Auto American and the Hunter were one album. So I did that list, but I was like, no, we've already done Auto American. Let's just pretend Blondie stole Cuckoo songs and they were to produce them.
So Jimmy, would the cover of your album be Blondie or Debbie in the wig, but with the spikes through her head?
That's a great, yeah. Combine the wig and the needles. Everyone would have loved that.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be a Coup Hunter. Well,
Cuckoo Hunter.
I really enjoyed talking about this album, and just like Auto American, you all have inspired me to put it back in my car tomorrow. And
yeah, well, you've inspired me. I'm going back and revisit the tracks that you all love that didn't land with me. So my promise to you is I'm going back and I'm going to listen to those all over again, taking your comments into put it into perspective for myself.
Get ready for my message in the group chat. Hey guys, all right. I love this one. So I will see you all in November where we enter the 90s together and we make a comeback unexpectedly out of nowhere. And I'm going to upload this tonight. If anyone wants to share it in any Blondie forums or anything, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to the Patreon subscribers and to you, my Blondie friends, for discussing who else is going to discuss the Hunter track by track for 2 hours. This has been awesome. Any other final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I love you guys.
All right. Love y'all.
Don't hate me.
Hold on. Let me give you my list real quick.
Oh.
Listen to it in this order, guys. It'll change your opinion. Orchid Club, Dragonfly, The Beast, War Child, Little Caesar. First side.
Okay.
Well, first part of the playlist. Then side 2, Hunter, Island, Dance Away, Find the Right Words, For Your Eyes Only, and end it with English Boys. I promise you, listen to it in that order, and you're going to have a whole different perspective on that
Oh,
album.
I feel an 8 or 8.5 coming on. All right. I'll see you next month, my friends. Thank you so much.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.